Alright, so we're going to go over the sacrum diagnosis. So sacrum somatic dysfunctions and their diagnoses. So the first step that you're going to get is you're going to get your seated flexion. And that is going to tell you one of two things. If you have a positive side, positive seated flexion, that is going to be your side of motion, which we'll talk about the axes later. If it's negative, it means one of two things. One, either you have no dysfunction, or you have a bilateral dysfunction. So after you get your seated flexion test, you then are going to move on to one of the two backward bending tests. Either you're going to go with your spring test, which tests for extension of the sacrum, which could either be what I call one-sided or your bilaterals. Next one is your spring test or sphinx test. And that tests the one-sided. Okay, last step, your landmarks. So that's where we draw our beautiful sacrum. And there's three types of dysfunctions that you're going to have. You're going to have your bilaterals, where both the superior segments or the inferior segments are going to be posterior. You have your torsions, which either the left or the right, both of them are going to be posterior. And then you have your unilateral shears. And they come in as a crisscross pattern. But the best way to approach it is that if one of the ILAs is posterior, then the superior aspect or the sacral base is going to be the opposite of it. So if this is posterior, this is going to be anterior. So again, with the seated flexion test, if you end up with a positive seated flexion test on, let's say, the right side. So your positive seated flexion test on the right side. If it is a torsion, you're going to end up with a left axis because it's the side of the motion is happening on is going to be on the left side or the right side while the left axis holds it in place. If it's a unilateral shear, it's going to be the entire right side that is moving. So if we have a posterior ILA on the right and a right seated flexion, that means the right side is coming into flexion and causes that unilateral shear. So, besides that, we're going to move to L5 diagnoses that correlate with the sacrum dysfunctions. L5 diagnoses only occur in the torsions. And the way that you can look at it is whichever side the L5 side bends is the side of the torsion axis. Whichever side L5 rotates, the sacrum rotates opposite. So again, L5 side bends, whichever way the L5 side bends, torsion is on that axis, so it's on the same side. L5, whichever way L5 rotates, the sacrum rotates opposite. So let's just say we have L5 that is neutral, side bend left, rotate right. So side bend left is your left axis. Rotate right, it's going to be rotating on the same side, so it's a left on left. The sacrum has a left axis rotating to the left, so it's a left on left axis, forward sacral torsion. So now the last question is, how are we going to treat it with muscle energy? So muscle energy, and we're specifically just going to talk about the torsions. So the way that I remember it is that if you have what I will say is a flex or a forward sacral torsion, you fall forward into the fetal position. And that is for your forward sacral torsions. So the way that I remember it is it's greater than 90 degrees, because what you're going to do is you're going to start in anatomical position. So let's just put this person standing here, and there's their lovely feet, pelvis, and head, and we'll give them some spiky hair just to make sure. So 90. This is with him standing in anatomical position. He's at 0 degrees. When he brings his leg straight out in front of him, this is 90 degrees. So if we have a forward sacral torsion, you're going to bring him beyond the 90 degrees. So he's going to bring his knees up to here, and then you're going to have him side bend away. So if we have a backward sacral torsion, you fall backwards, sprawled out. And that's because the 90 degree, it's less than 90 degrees for the backward sacral torsions. And two other things about the muscle energy. Your axis side is down. And the other things, you're forward and backwards. So fall forwards into fetal, they fall forward where their body is hugging that table. So your axis side is down, and on a forward sacral torsion, you have them turn their body and hug the table because they're falling forward. For backward sacral torsions, you have them fall backwards. So instead of falling, so they still have their right axis down for left on right, backward sacral torsion. So they are on their right side, and then instead of hugging the table, they put their back to the table. And then less than 90 degrees.
Okay. All right, I want to add something really quick to this. Thank you very much, Thomas. So the first thing, this part here, the positive and negative means that it's positive as to when you're feeling there in the sacrum, which side moves last, and that will be the positive side. So if you put your fingers there in the sacral bases and the right side moves last, you can see it move up on the right side. That would be positive on the right, which means the axis is on the left. So that's kind of what that tells you. And then this spring part here is basically telling you that the entire sacrum is, if it's positive, then it's stuck like this. So, like that. And if it's negative, it means that it's like this. And so this would be extension, this would be flexion, okay? So, and then here, these torsions, this one here is left on left or right on right, whereas the unilaterals, this is a left on right or a right on left. And when we say right on left,
I want to correct this.
No, correct that, yeah.
So, no, this will either be a left on left, left on right, right on left, or right on right.
Okay.
This one is going to be either your left or right unilateral flexions, or left or right unilateral extensions.
Okay. Thank you. That's a good thing. So, last thing I was going to point out, help me remember.
Also, a quick addition for the treatment aspect. You're always going to have, or the patient's always going to be trying to bring their legs up towards the ceiling while you resist their motion, whether it's a forward or a backward torsion.
Yep, legs up to ceiling.
And you're resisting that motion.
Mm-hmm. That's the
Okay.
muscle energy part.
Yep.
Okay. All right. I think that's everything. Oh, by the way, what I mean by left on right or right on left is it's going to be rotated left on a left axis. That's what that left on left means. It means this is the axis, and it's rotated right or left on a left axis. That's what that second letter designates as the axis. I think that's everything.